Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Strange Normal. My name is Bradley. We talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life to give you a biblical understanding of what is going on. And there is so much going on that you need to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we are just popping off here. There's so much happening, and I think every week, and this has happened a lot less lately, but I think every week, man, we're not gonna have enough content. What are we gonna do? Should we air this? Should we do this? I don't know what we should do, but it's never that way. What is that noise? I hear someone breathing. Is that Matthew? I was like, what is that noise?
It is me. Well, my mic came on as I was settling into position. So, just getting down into place. I'm with you, man. I'm with you about the information coming out. It seems to be really ramping up. A promising year is 2024.
And half of me is glad about that because it means we're going home soon. But the other half of me goes, if we could just have a little more time to reach one more person. And that's what this channel is about. We're trying to reach people, help them understand what's about to break upon this world, because that's the long and short of it. And speaking of that, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about what's about to break upon this world. If anybody understands what that phrase means, or where that phrase comes from, I think it's important to point it out here. I want to talk about one thing before we get into it, Matthew, if you don't mind. I thought this was interesting. We talked a little bit on the show the other day about how even though this whole channel is devoted to showing that there is a huge deception coming, and it's going to break upon this world like no one's ever talked about, no one's ever seen before. I follow Matthew is non-denominational. I am from a Seventh-day Adventist background, and I am still Seventh-day Adventist. And I worked in evangelism, went to school for it for 10 years at a well-known ministry in the church. And so I have a lot of background in this, and I realized that there's something happening here, not only just in our church, but in many churches. For instance, we recently had an issue in our church where everyone had to vote on something. And then I realized that every church, every denomination in the country, Protestant anyway, was having something similar happening at that time within a few years. And so I thought, that's interesting. And so breaking this apart, we are a channel that is devoted to telling you straight from the Bible what is happening. This is not an ecumenical movement. Let me make that very clear. We're going to present the truth as it is from the Bible. We're not going to tell you that you need to go worship UFOs. You need to read from only our Bible, or like we have one. And we're not going to say, hey, you know what? You need to go worship idols. This is something that we need to make sure we understand. This is a biblical channel. This is not an ecumenical movement. But because there is so little, and it's so difficult to find Christians that want to talk about this. I've talked to so many people. I've actually had people on this show cancel 4 hours before they were supposed to be recording a show for me, because they were Christians from a different denomination. They said, "Oh, we don't want to." I asked them. I said, "Look, I understand we don't agree with the duality of the soul. That's what I call the state of the dead." And so they said, "Absolutely not. I'm not going to talk to you then. Our meeting is canceled." I had taken the whole day off of work in order to talk to them. This is not a compromising channel. We've seen things in here that we absolutely believe is a big deal. And one of those things is the state of the dead. We've seen that the UFOs, through George Jordan's just research in general, just looking through the testimonies, have shown that these things are definitely going to use this and masquerade as someone that you know. And so that is part of the reason why I'm passionate about making sure everybody knows here. Even though we have speakers and guests and all this other stuff, co-hosts from different religions, different backgrounds, it's important to know this isn't ecumenical. This is Bible truth and understanding what is going on here from the Bible itself. And we're not going to compromise on that, right? Right, Matthew? Sorry to monologue there for a second.
I'm with you. No compromises for me as far as what I believe goes. I have respect for people who don't believe the same way I do. I like to have conversations with them. I like to crack open the Bible and say, okay, where are you coming from? And I'm going to explain to you where I'm coming from. And hopefully, the goal is when you have a conversation like that, of course, you're trying to evangelize even to a person within the Christian community. I'm trying to convince you of my belief because at one point I didn't hold the beliefs that I have today. I didn't have a foundation of an understanding, a biblical understanding for the things I believed in, but I feel very confident in that now. So I'm always happy to talk with people in good faith and have that conversation. But as far as it goes, no, there is an aspect where we're not meant to necessarily compromise as Christians, and we're meant to go forward in confidence and say, this is thus saith the Lord. It is written. So that's where I always try to come from.
Very good.
And as far as your comment earlier about wanting to just wait a little longer before Jesus comes, of course, we do want to reach as many people as possible and have as many people there in eternal life with us. But I do also have faith in God. I know that when he calls it, he's calling it. And I have total faith in that, even if there's a point where it's like, oh, I really wish I could have if I would have just had more time. It's one of those things where the Lord says, jump, I'm jumping. He's told Noah, hey, get in the ark, and you're going to sit in there for 7 days before it comes. All right, I'm doing it. I'm getting in the ark. I have faith that you're gonna see me through this, but that's where we're at right now. Fortunately, we're in that pre-ark stage, I believe. I think we're in that portion, probably where the ark is being built, and even the finishing touches are being put on the ark, because I believe Jesus is coming back much sooner than later.
Yeah, much sooner than we expect. Even I have a couple quotes. The Bible says this. This is what the Bible says. I'm telling you this now. This is Jesus talking. I'm telling you this now before it happens, so that when it does happen, you will believe. This is my mantra that I've kept for the channel. Look, you don't have to believe what I'm saying. I mean, it's kind of hard not to now that you've seen all the news that's popped out over this stuff. But Jesus said himself, look, I'm going to tell you some stuff that's going to be hard, and this is part of that. You better, if you don't believe what we're saying here, you better store it back in your back of your head so you can bring it out when it does happen, that you will believe. That's what Jesus said. That's John 13:19. For those of you who are Adventist, I am an Adventist. I follow Ellen White's writings pretty closely, and I think it's fascinating. She says this is what one of the things she says about this. This is really cool. She says, we should study the nature, character, and extent of this spiritual wickedness in high places, lest we become dupes of the powers of darkness. But how difficult is it to awaken the minds to realize the continual activity and great earnestness of our wily foe, notwithstanding the warnings and cautions of the Bible and the experience of many who have been overthrown by his subtleties. So she says, I don't believe that it is our duty to dwell on the darkness. We should understand what's going on. That's huge, to understand exactly what's happening. But we need to, like this says, I believe, understand the character, the extent, and the nature of what is happening here, so we don't become dupes of it. That's huge. There's one other quote I want to throw out there too that I think is from Prophets and Kings. Christians should be praying for what is soon to break upon the world as an overwhelming surprise, and this preparation they should make by diligently studying the Word of God. So how do we prepare for something that she says is going to break upon the world? She didn't say Christians. She didn't say Adventists. She didn't say Protestants. She didn't say Catholics. She said break upon the world as an overwhelming surprise. I think this channel covers what that is. That's what I believe. And we need to be, how do we prepare for that? By studying the Word of God. That's what I believe. As I dig further into this, Matthew, you want to, as I prepare my show notes, do you have anything to say?
Just that it is going to break out upon the whole world. That's the truth. No one is going to be spared this confrontation, this spiritual confrontation that's coming. And that's why no matter where we are, it is important to dive into the Word, to be familiar with what it says, so that you can, Jesus says that his herd, he's a shepherd, and his herd will know his voice. And what I find particularly interesting about that is the sheep that were in Jerusalem, they responded to the shepherd's voices so well that if, say, Brad had a flock of sheep and I had a flock of sheep, we could let them intermingle in the same valley. Brad and I could sit there and chat, and we say, okay, time to go back to our respective homes. I go up to one end of the valley, he goes to the other. I call my sheep, he calls his sheep, and just like that, the flocks would separate, and they would just go with their shepherd. And we have to be as those sheep behave. When we hear and recognize the voice of our God, we need to be that obedient, faithful, trusting sheep to go along with them. I think it's funny that sheep is it's a negative term, especially in the conspiracy world. People will say, oh, you're just a sheep going along with the narrative. Well, I'm proud to be a sheep, but I'm not going along with the world's narrative. I'm going along with what my God has told me, and I'm called to be obedient in that fashion, to be as a child. I'm speaking firsthand as a father. Yeah. It can be very frustrating when your child is running away from you and you're calling them, and you know they hear you full well. You know that they're hearing you, but they're just going to keep on going. And eventually it makes you run after them, and you grab them and you say, hey, why didn't you listen to me? Oh, I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm sorry. Well, if you're really sorry, then you have to listen to me next time, because that's what I'm asking for, is obedience. So if I, as an earthly father, am trying to demand that level of obedience from my children, it just gives me so much perspective that God, he is asking for a level of obedience that I really hope and strive to meet with his help.
Yes, absolute. With that, I think we can get straight into the program. There was one thing. Usually we do the what's in the news first to give you an update on what happened last week in the news on this deception that's happening. But before we do that, Matthew reminded me, Wendy posted something in the Discord that was just phenomenal. I mean, just amazing. I mean, it's so it's so bad. Let me just play it for you, because I think nothing can. I can't utter words to explain it, except for one. Disney. Welcome to Disney. Here we go.
Oh, falling from the stars, a distant galaxy. Oh, we're not sure who they are, friend or enemy. Now we really know that we're not alone. It's kind of scary though, but it's kind of cool. It's an alien invasion. It's an alien invasion. It's an alien invasion. It's an alien invasion.
Whoa, what is that? That was the worst form of propaganda I've ever seen in my life. What? Why?
Was it?
I mean, it was just horrible. I mean, and not just from a song perspective. I get the dubstep and all that stuff. Okay, I understand that, but the writing of it sounded like someone said, "Oh, you know what? These words are great. Can we put them to music?" Now, I would like to really talk to people about an alien invasion and then have teenagers dance to it, because that's what I think is fun.
Yeah. The lyrics, the lyrics are especially, because like the movement and the dancing, that's one thing. Of course, it's like drawing your attention. It's a visual medium, but the lyrics, what is it? We don't know if they're friend or foe, but it's kind of cool. Okay, yeah, and then
hold on,
film it on your phone and hide inside your home. It's really, I don't know. People talk about brainwashing, right? I feel like it's a level of brainwashing because it's walking you through the motions of what's happening. When I was a kid, and we would go through like a fire drill, for example, right? It was a real thing. Okay, what do we do? This happens, get in the line, and you're walking outside, and we all sound off, I'm here. And that's what they're doing, because, I mean, to us, with adult minds, developed minds, this is just so ridiculous. But for a little kid, what is a little kid going to do? This is marketed towards, I believe, if you're under 10 years old, you're going to dance around to it. I mean, you can't help it.
I'm going to merge this. It might play it again.
Falling from the stars, a distant galaxy.
All right, enough of that. We're not sure who they are. I'm not going to play it again, but I do want to read the lyrics. Right. That's why I wanted to.
You want the lyrics,
yeah.
Because the lyrics are not, it's not good. I wouldn't say from a songwriting standpoint. From like a message standpoint, they're not good, but also just in general, people. It's no John Lennon's Imagine, right? Where everybody's there singing along to that,
It's kind of scary, though. Film it on your phone. It's so funny. So, thank you, Wendy, for finding this. I think it's fascinating that we have, just as usual, when Disney has always been on the forefront.
Can you go back one frame? I just have to see something.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like the last frame you had with the girl.
Which one?
Wanted to see. I can't see it. The girl, because she had like symbols on her pants. I just wanted to know. Right? Because they're kind of weird. That's a Zodiac? She's wearing Zodiac pants. That's interesting, right?
Is it?
Yeah, I believe so. With the what I can see from the low resolution. Maybe is it better? Can anybody see? Doesn't that look like looks like Zodiac signs?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I see like a little Taurus.
Well, you know what? I found out while working in the Hollywood. I was there doing extra work for quite a while in Hawaii. Actually, I don't want to say that because it sounds you're in Hawaii. But the thing I've discovered while working as an extra out there is you don't even get to choose your own clothes. They put clothes on you, and so this was all chosen. This all this stuff, what she's wearing on her necklace, what she's wearing on her ears. I mean, they say you can bring your stuff, but they get to choose if you can keep it or not. And so it's not like these kids are just showing up and saying, "Hey, I'm going to show up and talk." Everything is chosen. Everything is produced to a T. What books you have in your hand, what belt you have on. So that's don't think that that's a small thing if she has Zodiac pants on. That's all I thought.
I think you need to get your studio up and running, Brad, so you can counteract this with your own dance move.
We're working on that.
Your own lyrics.
I was actually up there today, and we're working on that. And it's the building's not up there yet, but we are definitely in the process of it. Everything's pretty icy right now, but we'll get that rolling. Speaking of. I got something new I wanted to talk to you before we get into the news, because the news is going to blow your mind. So hang out for that for a second. But I want to tell you, we have a very new thing. I'm going to bring it straight back over to my computer here. This is the Patreon. We've made some significant changes to it. I want to show you real quick. You now can be a part of the Discord, read only. For only as a truther, as this thing right here. You can join it. You can watch the action in the process, and see what's going on. See 100 people that we have almost in there, and they're all researching. And you don't have to sit. You don't have to be involved or talk or anything. This is all read only. If you want to, you can as the next tier up. Or also, Preacher, you get to be a part of our Friday night fellowship and Bible study. And also, we got a lot of other things in here too. So if you're interested in being part of the Discord community, it's a lot of fun. And I think everyone that has joined has been just like, wow, there's lots going on in here. Let me bring it up just to kind of show you what is going on in here, because this is really neat stuff. This is the channels. This is basically what the Discord is. It's basically a large chat/forum. This is the latest stuff. You got normal stuff, introductions, fellowship, but then you get into things like occult prophecies and stuff. We're going to do a whole video on that. Hearings from the government. We do meetups sometimes. We do weekly show planning in here. We talk about I get tons of emails about this stuff, so I get things sent to me, things sent to Brad. There's a channel in there somewhere. We talk about design and production, what's actually happening in here, and how everything's put together. This is a very important stuff. Off topic, I mean, fact checking. We even got a section for sermons, websites, Facebook groups. And all this stuff is in here. We're talking about not only that, but wars and rumors and wars, natural disasters, the coming prophecies, Project 2025 is a big one that we're looking into right now. This is all very interesting information, and there's so many people that's researching this right now. You should definitely hop in here if you're into this kind of stuff, because it's a fascinating topic, and you can do that through Patreon. Commercial over. I think it's a good thing to be as a group, Matthew, and be focused on one thing. And that's what I've noticed. I've always been very concerned about people joining all in one group together and everyone getting along, but we've had an amazing group of people in here that everyone just is so much in harmony about this, and they really get along. In fact, we've had you're a former Catholic, Matthew, right? And so I was impressed that just the other day we had one or two Catholic people join. They said, we are also Catholic, but we've been fascinated about what you've said, and we're studying further into Catholicism and what you've said about it. So it's a huge place where we share information and share gospel, share the truth of the Bible, and it's a very good thing that's going on. So if you're interested, join us on patreon.com/strangenormal. Let's get into the news, unless you have something to say, Matt.
No, I'd like to see what the news is talking about, because just the title alone. I always love your titles, because they're I read them and I think, wow, okay, what am I in for?
What are we going into for now? So let me bring up that B-roll so we don't get into Disney again. We're going to go and jump straight into News Nation, because we've got something big happening here. Hold on. Having issues.
I see people in the live chat. If you're interested in joining the Discord and going over the Patreon, just click the description of this video. It's right there. Join our Discord, and then also Patreon. Easy to navigate once you're there. Should be able to figure it out.
And if at the end of this video, I'll put a pinned comment up so you can join. I'll link to it, but not until at the end. So hang out, and we'll see you very soon. Or go to patreon.com/strangenormal right now, and I'll put it in the chat as soon as we start this first video. We got a new UFO that the Pentagon is saying is a big deal. This is called the Chandelier UFO. We talked about the stars. Remember that last couple episodes about stars of heaven and how these angelic entities appear as stars. I think it's interesting that this new one appears what they call as a chandelier. It looks like a star to me. So let's watch this and check it out.
Investigative journalist and co-host of the Weaponized podcast, Jeremy Corbel, is the one who released that video. And today he dropped yet another image of a separate UFO sighting. It's being called the Chandelier UFO because of its shape. A new documentary series hosted by Corbel shows the moment he speaks to an unidentified U.S. intelligence official about this puzzling image.
So what was the most impressive thing to you about this video, which the world has not seen yet?
The fact that it makes no sense. It is just the most bizarre structure with no purpose and with speed that has everyone across the intelligence community just asking questions and trying to figure out what this thing is. There's no wings. There's seemingly no place for anyone to sit on. It's just a bizarre shape.
All right, we have the picture of the Chandelier UFO, as it's being called, but where's the video? Let's bring in investigative journalist Jeremy Corbel to find out. So what's the answer? Where's the video, Jeremy?
Yeah, that's part of the story, and I think I'm going to have to answer that at another time. But I will say this, is that there is more footage. That is a fact. So some people got to see portions of it within the intelligence community, and I'm so happy that people are coming forward. That's kind of the point of why you put some of this stuff out. There is a bigger story to tell. The object did go into the water for 17 minutes, and then it did come out and shoot off at an extraordinary speed.
Wait, are you talking about the jellyfish UFO or the Chandelier UFO?
Right. So let's separate the two for your audience.
Yeah.
So what we are calling the jellyfish UFO is a strange morphology. I mean, it looks like a jellyfish, and because it went in the water, we dubbed it that. Some people called it the spaghetti monster, and that's awesome. But the other one, the chandelier, it's because if you look at it from the bottom, it looks like a chandelier. They're two separate events, military filmed footage of designated UAP by our intelligence agencies. So I'm talking about the jellyfish UFO is the one that actually showed transmedium capability. It did go into the water for 17 minutes, did come up and shoot off at an extraordinary speed.
When you say these videos were made by the military, made by what kinds of cameras, on what kinds of equipment?
Yeah, it was actually called the MX-20 was the actual system, but we have surveillance platforms to protect bases. So this is the first time in history we are seeing a designated UAP, an unknown and unidentified, that it is moving into a restricted base. It is an incursion, in fact. So this is the first time you're seeing that. We've heard about this, how UFOs will come in, they'll turn on or shut down nuclear weapons in Russia and China. Well, this is the first time you're seeing footage of an incursion of a designated UAP by our intelligence agencies.
But when you say, I mean, you know, when we say designated UAP, that it has been designated a UAP by our intelligence agencies, that doesn't mean it's alien life. It just means we don't know what it is, right?
Oh, correct. Yeah. We don't know what it is. It's unidentified, which is very dangerous. To have something that you don't know its capability or intent, that is a big deal. So UAPs in general, I don't even know where they're from, who's controlling them, but the fact that they can outpace, outmaneuver, and outperform anything we have, that is an issue.
Yeah, they're doing something that we don't have the technology to do, and we have supposedly the most sophisticated military on Earth right now.
It's a problem.
Okay. The intelligence analyst that you interviewed in the documentary about the Chandelier video said that UFO, quote, made no sense. What was he talking about, and what else is unusual about that one?
Right. So to answer your first question, why is it an image and not a video? Because as a journalist, I can obtain and release certain things that do not have a problem with national security. It doesn't jeopardize our national security. So sometimes when I obtain things, I can create and put out a still image from a video. But there are sensitive things about releasing military film footage, especially incursions in military bases. So the Chandelier one, you're seeing an image like the Mosul Orb, which is another military filmed UAP that I put out with George Knapp, my mentor in journalism, right? So this is just another image. Now, I hope the full video of the Chandelier UAP does come out. We're even having pressure from inside the government to get answers from the Inspector General of the intelligence community. But as a journalist, I can put this out in good conscience and say, this is what's going on. Now, why it was unique? Well, the heat signature is unlike anything I've ever seen before, but also the people that have seen the full videos within the intelligence community, they report to me that there's no flight control surfaces. They don't know how this thing was maneuvering the way it was and just kind of rotating. It is an unknown. It's not U.S. capable. We don't know whose it is, and that is a problem.
So an article on MissouriNet.
Okay, so that's interesting. But before I go into why that's interesting, I've got a light blaring at me real quick. Wow! Hey guys, thank you so much for your super chats. I want to go down from the top to the bottom. I hope I didn't miss anybody here. Thank you so much, Michelle Brown. She says this is a great forum for the truth. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it. And M. St. G, thank you with prayer hands. Peter, thank you. I've seen you before. Yeah, I think you were part of the Discord or actually at least on Patreon. Yeah, I've seen you in there. Hit like and subscribe and share. Yes, please do. This is a good episode because we're going to talk about all the latest stuff that's happened. Lisa, thank you so much for your super chat. She said, they're angels sent to save us, they say. She put that in quotes. And Mrs. Kennedy, thank you so much. She said, I'm so glad I joined the Discord and Patreon. Very good. Very, very good. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to turn off the light now. Still trying to get that light to actually activate correctly immediately when it happens, and we're inches from that point. So, hey, Matthew, this is interesting, huh? I mean, there's like every week there's a new one coming out right now.
For sure. Jeremy Corbel, he's really established himself in the UFO community. He's kind of the, I don't know, the real whistleblower guy, right? Because he's got all these people giving him videos and leaking things to him rather than going through the proper. There's no way they could go through their chain of command to have these things released, so they're going to go to him, and he's got this reputation, I guess probably a good reputation at this point, for protecting their identity. Otherwise people wouldn't still be kicking him different footage. He mentioned it was the MX-20, which is a sensor turret which is typically mounted to aircraft, surveillance aircraft. So what we were seeing there with the jellyfish one, right, that he was talking about, or the flying fern, as you've referred to it as, that would have been identified from an aircraft that was using this turret. Infrared is what it would have been using. So that's pretty interesting, because that is more, I believe, a more recent installation. Could be wrong in that. I dealt with things under the ocean rather than in the sky. So, but from what I know, that is it's being identified on more modernized technology, and it just reminds me of last year when we had the whole balloon incident, the ballooning. If everybody remembers the ballooning of 2023, that was a wild time to be in the UFO sphere, because they were talking about how they were going to start tuning their sensors, and they're going to start making sure that they were picking up these things so they weren't embarrassed anymore. And maybe we're going to just see the fruit of that effort. However, that symbol, it didn't look like a chandelier to me. I don't know where they're kind of going with chandelier. It looked to me like an occult symbol.
Oh, really?
It looks like, specifically, it looked like there's a symbol for, like, chaos in general. It's the chaos symbol. I'll see if I can get it to you here. I'll save it here as a... if I can copy it as a PNG. I hope this is going to come through to you as a PNG. The weird thing about this is when I do this on the fly to Brad and I just send him something on air, sometimes the file's not compatible and I don't have time to go and convert it. So hopefully we'll get to see this come up. But what do you think? It's in What do you think? Isn't that pretty dead on?
It looks kind of like a
compass.
compass.
Got that same. Yeah, and that's what the chandelier looked like to me. It had the 8 points, and especially accentuated. This is the first thing that came to mind is the symbol of chaos, but you can also see it it manifests different religions. The Buddhist wheel. I'll see if I can find a decent one for you. And that.
I'm trying to get this in there, so hang on with me.
The Wheel of Dharma is what it's called. I'll send that to you as well, just to really put you on the spot. Get those two images in there now. But I mean, this is what I'm seeing when I see this image. It doesn't look like a chandelier to me. If anything, I would be saying this is more in line with what it looks like. And it's just funny that from a spiritual. And once you guys see it on the screen, let me know in the chat if you have any other examples of this. Because I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to think, even the occults, would the star make it up? Is it 8 points, 6 points? No. I would like to know. No, you're good. Once you guys see it, just let me know. I guess there's like a dividing line. Because it's blending into the background as a PNG. That's fine, though. No, you can see it, though. I think we can all see this. Everybody see this?
I'm going to go to the next one.
There you go.
That's the Wheel of Dharma?
People will be able to see it.
What is this?
Wheel of Dharma. That's a Buddhist symbol.
Oh, that looks like a ship wheel, but I've heard of the Dharma. Okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. That's wild. So,
Yeah. Oh, we've got some people here. Yeah, talking about the symbol of the compass, says Kevin. The Maltese cross, says Lisa. Now, I'm familiar with that, and I don't know. I feel like it's missing a couple of points, but at the same time, I think that the Maltese cross and, unfortunately, some crosses in general are kind of a simplified version of this. Yeah.
Maltese cross?
I can see that. Yeah, because it's not like the traditional cross that I guess you would think of that Christians associate.
Man.
It's got a very...
Some of these people need to join us in the Discord. This research is fantastic. I didn't even realize that was so... It's an interesting shape. That's all I got to say. And they said they have video of it, and they just haven't
Rocky says
released
that
it yet.
It's Clink the Gear Pokemon. I'm not sure that I know. He's a funny guy.
That's funny because
I always appreciate it.
The last episode, people were connecting the flying fern with a Pokemon as well. I thought that was interesting. And who knows? Maybe they're connected somehow. I don't know enough about Pokemon to tell. I'm gonna have to ask my wife. She knows. But let me see. There's actually more to this than just this one chandelier UFO. We've got a lot going on here. Unless you got something else you want to talk about the symbolism of, because that's fascinating. But we also have
Shiva.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff has letting us know Shiva, Wheel of the Dance. I gotta check that out too. Yeah, because now that once you get the gear, once you get it going, once you take a look and you say this kind of looks like a symbol, you'll notice just how intertwined they all are. And a lot of people, even people who are esoteric types that aren't necessarily Christians. Okay. They'll point to that and they'll say, yeah, see, there's some type of hidden knowledge that humanity innately knows. That is not what I believe. I believe that there is a cabal of fallen angels that have visited all the different groups of humanity. And
I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull it up again so we can look at it.
No, you're good. Yeah, there's the symbol. Just now that we have it in mind, you can see what it looks like. I'm looking up that Shiva wheel, by the way. Oh, yeah. Shiva wheel, certainly. It's the same kind of thing. That's what they're going for. Yeah.
Huh.
Wow.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. Basically, all these symbols, the reason why they overlap so much, even if they're from different cultures and they didn't necessarily have close interactions with each other or share the same religious beliefs, it's all the same beings behind the scenes, just perpetuating these symbols. And they derive some form of power when people invest their energy into using them for worship. It could just be as simple as they're not worshiping God and they're worshiping something else, so they get it. But people who are into this type of stuff with symbols, they swear by it. But I honestly, I think it's kind of what Paul wrote about the idols of wood. They're dumb. It doesn't speak. It doesn't have anything. It is what it is. But there is a power, so to speak, behind the symbol, and that's what we war against.
Yeah, they don't care what you worship as long as you don't worship God. And if they're going to make a symbol or make something, I mean, where do you think all these symbols came from on the different cards, tarot cards, tarot cards, whatever you say? They probably came from some occult background, and they probably have come from seeing things, right? And saying, oh, okay, this is probably that. It's not some guy in the background going, I'm going to make this up and this is going to be occultic. I'm sure these have come from somewhere. And so it could be what we're seeing right now is the beginning of all this spiritualism coming back. And so it's a big deal. But we also have people that are truly see this for what it is, and they say that what we are seeing absolutely is angels or demonic angels. Hopefully they understand that there is a power working here, both good and evil. Let's look at one of those real quick, because that is a big deal. Watch this. You're going to see Representative Eric Burlison talking about them being possibly angels. Watch this. That's not it. Next.
So an article on MissouriNet, which is dated the 21st of August last year, with Marshall Griffin, you said, and I'll quote, in my opinion, it's either angels or man-made. I think the most likely explanation is that it's man-made. And I wonder, given your whirlwind exposure to the UAP topic in that time, does that statement still reflect your current opinion?
Yeah, probably even more so. So, and let me clarify, because that sounds confusing to some people. So here's what I mean by that. When I read Grusch's report that's public, that anyone can read, in the report he described that one of the theories is that what we're encountering are beings that are extra-dimensional or interdimensional, meaning that, and he used the holographic theory that as though we're living on a two-dimensional surface being encountered by a three-dimensional object. Well, in this case, we're living in a three-dimensional environment, and we could be being encountered by something that's of a higher dimension. And when it does, it's not necessarily traveling. I mean, it could travel, but I think if something exists in a different dimension, then space-time difference, the distance may become irrelevant at that point. What I think is the least likely probability is that we are being visited by some alien race from another planet that is light years away. I know in the hearing I flubbed and I said, thousands of light years. What I meant to say is thousands, millions, trillions, billions of miles away, and light years away from us, right? Whatever you want to call it, it's a long way. It's a really long way to anywhere, and it's a long way in any direction. So the probability of some other alien race evolving to that level, and then deciding to, of all places, come this direction, and then, as I said in the hearing, they've got the technology to get here and invest all that time to get here and energy to get here, and then they crash. I don't buy it. I do think that the extra-dimensional theory is intriguing to me, but again, I'd have to see more. I'd have to see something to make me believe that it's true. I do think, though, that it's more likely, at least unless someone can give me evidence otherwise, I think it's more likely that it would be something extra-dimensional than it would be within this dimension. And so what I'll say is that when you start talking about things in that nature, that they're extra-dimensional, well, in a lot of different scriptures, including the Bible and others, that's really the way that you describe messengers of God, or angels. And so they may not fit exactly the biblical narrative, but whenever I use the term angels, to me it's synonymous with an extra-dimensional being.
Okay. So it's interesting to me that he's one of the few that have pulled that out. I think the other one was the Tennessee representative, who's constantly on here. But this is
Timber Chat.
Yeah, that's right. This is Eric Wayne Burlison. I'm going to bring up his Wikipedia real quick. I'm going to read a little bit so we know exactly. This is the first time I'm reading it, so bear with me. Is an American politician serving as the U.S. representative of Missouri, the 7th congressional district, since 2023. He's previously served as the representative for District 133 in the Missouri House of Representatives, a Republican. Burlison was elected to the Missouri House in 2008 and all that stuff. So interesting. He is the politician serving in Missouri. And so he's connected them. He's the guy, Matthew, I think last time when we went over all the people that went to this private meeting that got let in and talked to these guys, he was the guy that said, "This hasn't changed my worldview." I mean, kind of just a random thought. He's like, "Yeah, I learned stuff, but it hasn't changed my worldview." Okay, all right. Well, that is encouraging, but I think it's interesting that he's right now saying that, yeah, they might be angelic. I hope that he means that we're going to keep a watchful eye on them, because if these things are angelic, are they good or bad? That's the determining factor here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wish, the distinction that he made when he said it too, he said that they're angels, messengers, and then he continued to say messengers of God. Well, an angel is simply a messenger, and that's why when we're dealing with fallen angels, they're delivering a fallen message. They're still bearing a message. It's just not a message of God. It's a message that's going to further their own ends. It's Satan's message, because Satan is the head, he's the chief of the fallen angels, but they're all working to further their own aims. Once you're in rebellion to God, it's kind of all bets are off, and I'm going to see how far I can make it. So I wish he could have just left it at messengers in general, because not all angels are good angels, and unfortunately we just don't see that distinction usually anymore. When someone talks about angels, it's always, there's just the holy angels, and then they have devils and demons, which I do think they're appropriate titles to affix to fallen angels, but it takes away from, at their core, we do have to remind ourselves we're dealing with these angelic beings that rebelled against God. They once had a habitation that was in heaven. They had access to all that heavenly knowledge. They were created very powerfully, and they've fallen away, and that's who we're up against.
Yeah.
The other thing too was him talking about, because I've heard this before, where third dimensional beings being acted upon by fourth dimensional beings, which it's all well and good. Maybe, I don't know. I don't have the best understanding of physics necessarily, so maybe science can kind of quantify it that way, but I find it so much easier to just call it what it is and say, this is a spiritual phenomenon. Things are happening that we can't necessarily explain. We're not meant to be able to fully explain the phenomenon. We're just supposed to be able to recognize it and say, oh, okay, this is the dangerous thing. Right. I don't necessarily have to break it down. I think one day I am going to learn about the mechanics behind this. I'm very interested to know exactly how it works. I think that's a normal human curiosity, because you're seeing things happen. It's like, well, I want to know how it happens. But for right now, it's good enough for me to just see something and identify and say, okay, this is the enemy. I'm just going to turn it off because it's the enemy. What more do I need? If there's anything that I have to go any further, it's just to debunk what they're saying to try to like I was saying, war against it. But it's not something that I don't want to become fascinated by it. I don't want to see them doing their false miracles and get wrapped up in it and start debating the the minutia. Start saying like, well, it could have happened like this. They could have done it like this. Oh, they claim that it's a high technology. Don't you understand that technology could be beyond? No, I'm not going to get into this argument. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm going to just plainly tell you what is happening is not of God. It is an evil thing. You want to reject it, turn away from it, and good news, the real God is on his way very shortly to set things straight.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's important to remember. That these things are going to increase. We're going to see more and more of these things in the sky and stuff. And you know, that's when God says, hey, look up. And because your salvation is nigh. Things are going to start happening. We're not going to understand it. We don't have to understand it. I would love to understand it. I want to know the limitations of these things. I want to know how to detect them. You know, that's my personality. I want to be like, okay, how can I prevent myself from being deceived by this? Well, the Bible is very clear. Read the Word of God, understand it, and you won't be deceived by this. But this is a big thing's coming on right now, because before the 1700s, this was a common practice. You see all kinds of spiritualism. But now, I mean, this is according to the cultists that became Christian. After 1700s, everything went underground to try to convince you that there is nothing, that there is no spiritual side to this reality. Everything's just physical. And now we're seeing the termites come out of the woodwork, and then you're going to know that the wood is done. I mean, that's it, folks. It's over. You're seeing the end right now. And so that's the big deal.
And some people have given their testimony coming out of a dark kind of group or whatever, and fortunately being saved and coming out of that and then saying, hey, this is some of the weird stuff they were talking about. But the funny thing is, I don't even need them to tell me that, because I could just look at the world and see that is the way that it is. The superstitions have gone to the wayside. We have really transitioned into what I believe is the final phase, the quote-unquote information era, where we're so knowledgeable. We've increased in all of this luxurious goods. Oh, we have the better standard of living than anybody has ever lived, and we know so much, and if you want to learn something, it's at your fingertips. It's right there. Well, humanity has never been more miserable, has never been more just dejected, aimless. You look at the rates of people who are depressed and anxious, it's through the roof, and people who don't have any spiritual beliefs, or at least what they would consider traditional spiritual beliefs. Unfortunately, I think a lot of New Age beliefs are catching hold. But we're in a place right now where that is the truth. That what once was just considered common knowledge, that there was this conflict going on between God and Satan, it totally fell apart, and now we're living in this terrible age of confusion. If anything, it's not an information age. It's a very confused age to be living in.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of all these people that are actually seeing these things, did you know, according to a Gentile, Andrew Gentile, according to AJ of the Y-Files, he's saying that Columbus actually saw a UFO too. Not only in our lifetime, but in the you know the phrase, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Sailed the ocean blue? Yeah. What are you getting at here? In 1842, Columbus saw a UFO?
I think it was 1492. I don't know. Did I say 18?
Yeah, no, it's... I don't know. Obviously, we need to go back to school here. we need to be re-educated before you spread any more misinformation.
Watch this. I think this is interesting. If you guys haven't heard of the Y-Files yet... be very careful about what you watch on there. I watch him from a production standpoint, and I'm awed by how well he produces his stuff. He's a former Hollywood producer, and his wife is the CEO of an animation company, and he does amazing stuff. And he is pushing quite an agenda here. He doesn't even know it. I think or maybe he does. I don't know. Watch this, because I'm going to show you something that he didn't catch. You ready? Here we go.
I'm ready.
When Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic in search of a new route to India, he found something else. And it wasn't the New World. Well, he did find that, but he found something else first. Like every good captain, Columbus kept a journal of the entire voyage. His full journal is available and it's worth reading. But there's one specific entry that stands out.
1492, October 11th, 10 p.m. I and Pedro Gutierrez, while on the deck of the Santa Maria, observed a light glimmering at a great distance. It vanished and reappeared several times during the night, moving up and down in sudden and passing gleams. It was sighted for 4 hours.
Columbus saw a UFO?
He did. Well, technically, he saw a USO, unidentified submerged object.
Okay, we're going to get into the USOs real quick, but I first want to show you something. So I was like, I was putting this together. I was like, wow, I can't believe this. That's crazy. I'm going to add this to the thing. And I kid you not, as I was putting this together twice, not audibly, but something in my head was like, you need to go read that thing. Go find the logs of Columbus. Go read it right now. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. No, go read the logs of Columbus. And I was like, okay, let's go check that out. So I did. I went and read the logs of Columbus, and something I found out was remarkable. It's so much I want to say right now. I'm just going to play it. These are actual logs of Columbus on that same day that he saw the UFO. I'm going to play you the whole. Well, I'm going to play the first half of it. The second half of it gets kind of weird because they're like, "Hey, we want to take the Bahama people and make them slaves." It was really strange. I don't understand exactly what was going on there, but
wait, hold on. So he encounters like a demonic entity, and then the next thing is subjugating people.
No, that's. Let me just play it.
Well, yeah, just play it, man. Just Don't leave me in suspense.
All right, here we go. Listen to this. This is the actual logs.
Thursday, the 11th of October. Steered west-southwest, and encountered a heavier sea than they had met with before in the whole voyage. Saw pardellas, and a green rush near the vessel. The crew of the Pinta saw a cane and a log. They also picked up a stick which appeared to have been carved with an iron tool, a piece of cane, a plant which grows on land, and a board. The crew of the Nina saw other signs of land, and a stalk loaded with rose berries. These signs encouraged them, and they all grew cheerful. Sailed this day till sunset, 27 leagues. After sunset steered their original course west and sailed 12 miles an hour till 2 hours after midnight, going 90 miles, which are 22 leagues and a half, and as the Pinta was the swiftest sailer, and kept ahead of the Admiral, she discovered land and made the signals which had been ordered. The land was first seen by a sailor called Rodrigo de Triana, although the Admiral at 10 o'clock that evening standing on the quarter-deck saw a light, but so small a body that he could not affirm it to be land. Calling to Pero Gutierrez, groom of the king's wardrobe, he told him he saw a light, and bid him look that way, which he did and saw it. He did the same to Rodrigo Sanchez of Segovia, whom the king and queen had sent with the squadron as controller. But he was unable to see it from his situation. The Admiral again perceived it once or twice, appearing like the light of a wax candle moving up and down, which some thought an indication of land. But the Admiral held it for certain that land was near, for which reason, after they had said the salve which the seamen are accustomed to repeat and chant after their fashion, the Admiral directed them to keep a strict watch upon the forecastle and look out diligently for land, and to him who should first discover it he promised a silken jacket, besides the reward which the king and queen had offered, which was an annuity of 10,000 maraverdis. At 2 o'clock in the morning the land was discovered, at 2 leagues distance. They took in sail and remained under the square sail line till day, which was Friday, when they found themselves near a small island, one of the Lucayos, called in the Indian language Guanahani. Presently they descried people, naked, and the Admiral landed in the boat, which was armed, along with Martin Alonso Pinzon, and Vincent Yanez his brother, captain of the Nina.
All right, I'm going to pause it right there just for a second. That's the end of the clip that I'm going to show for this. Did you notice that there was nothing about them finding UFOs? They said that there was a light, and they said, well, it must mean we're near land. What were they? Close to land, yeah. And this is the image that I have up there. I'm going to bring it back up if I can. That's going to play it again probably, but I'll pause it as soon as I can.
Thursday, the 11th of October.
Yeah. And so this is the actual... I animated the boat going to the Bahamas here, and they hit that first island in the Bahamas, and they are bobbing up and down in the waves, and they see a light. What are they seeing? They're seeing a bonfire, because these people are natives of that land, and they have a fire on their shore over there, and they're seeing a light. But AJ says, oh, well, it must be a UFO, and they saw it, and it was in the water. You know how close they were? This is the day before they arrived to the Americas. So I think it's fascinating, because AJ says that that this must be the UFO. But you got to watch his research here. It might not be true. They certainly didn't think that. Anyway, I have a lot of other statistics. Like, for instance, they were going 90 miles per day. They were going 12 miles an hour. That means they were spending about 8 hours at sea, and I don't know how they would anchor, because I'm sure those seas pretty deep, but they've tracked themselves, and 90 miles. Let me just bring that up real quick. And Google Earth. I'm all prepared here. Look at me. I've got Google Earth here. This is the island that they were going to. I'm going to take the measuring tool and show you exactly how far 90 miles is. That's in feet. Let me fix that. 90 miles. Okay, so that's 90 miles right there. So it's no more than little past that island over there. See that? So they couldn't have been, I'm going to scroll out here. They couldn't have been more than, let me do this from here to here. When they started seeing, they collected stuff off that they knew was from land, plants and stuff, and they were this close. They were this close to getting there, and they said, you know what? Once they were almost there, they started seeing lights. I think it's fair to assume that they weren't seeing UFOs at all. I think they were
just seeing signs of civilization, signs of life on the horizon. Yeah. I mean, I think that is more. In most of the cases, I think that's more plausible. Even in the modern times, that's why we always have to be careful when we're looking at these UFO sightings of today. There are people who they're a little sinister, they're a little mischievous, and they like to do editing on their computers and make it look like very convincing that there is something. And other times, people are innocently just filming away at stuff. I know even it's funny in our Discord, because it happened to me, but a couple of times in the Discord, people mentioned, I saw a weird string of lights, and it was just really freaky. I've never seen anything like that. And it happens. Every couple of months, someone posts about it, and no shame on them, because it happened to me. I was sitting out back on my porch one night, and I look up, and I see it, and I'm like, oh no, is this what I think it is? And I had to look it up. It's Starlink. It's the satellites that are just in a line.
Elon Musk.
And they appear like that. Right, but if you just put that in your mind, you say, no, I saw a UFO, that's it, and you never go any further, you don't look at the honest facts. I think 99% of the time it can actually be explained. It's just that 1% that we're looking at, that we're looking for. And I think that's part of why the military footage is a little more convincing.
Right. And also, I want to point out that his whole entire script that he had in there, talking in the other guy's voice, wasn't even what was said. He had retyped and summarized the whole thing. So because what I played was actually what they saw and actually what was written in the logs. And what he played was a short 2-sentence summary saying they had saw something in the ocean.
He asked ChatGPT. He said, ChatGPT, what did Columbus write about it? Give me a condensed version to put on air.
Yeah, and I'm not here to knock the guy. I just think that let's get real. This is entertaining. Yeah, I thank you for your entertaining channel, but people are using your channel for research.
Oh yes, they are. And his channel's very popular, and people trust him a lot. I mean, if you read the comment section for Y-Files, it's not a lot of people are talking about the content of the episodes. A lot of people are talking about just how grateful they are that he's doing what he's doing. I mean, in his own way, he's got his own little ministry himself.
Yeah,
popping off over there.
I tell you. He did say a few things afterward. Now that we've thrown him into suspect, I'm going to show you something else he said that I thought was fascinating, that I haven't verified yet, but it is fascinating that there's so many sightings at sea. Let's talk about USOs, unidentified submerged objects. Here we go.
Columbus made his first landfall the next day, which means he had his UFO sighting while he was in the Bermuda Triangle. There have been sightings of underwater lights ever since. In 1644, the mayor of Boston saw 2 bright lights rise out of the water. In 1873, the Adelheid sailed over something in the South China Sea that lit up the ocean for over an hour. They said it looked like a Ferris wheel. In 1879, the HMS Vulture saw a large Ferris wheel spinning in the ocean. In 1880, commander of the SS Shah Jahan described a massive Ferris wheel under a calm sea near India's coast. Later that year, another ship with the British India Company saw the same object. They said it was 300 yards long. Those are just a few of the many reports of this object. There are reports of the same Ferris wheel type craft that span 200 years. Whatever objects are in our oceans, they've been here for a very, very long time. Since the early 1900s, professional sailors and Navy men have seen lights in the water, and in some cases, craft emerge from the ocean.
All right, so let's take it right there. But I feel almost kind of funny playing that last clip because you don't know. I mean, what it is, if it's is this real or not. But I'll tell you this, Matthew. I don't throw it out that there are things in the ocean. In fact, we're going to watch a clip where Jeremy Corbel says that even though the military has been having this problem with UFOs for quite a while, which I believe they probably really have. He says, they say the problem isn't with the air. The real issue originates with USOs, which I find fascinating because you were a sonar technician in the Navy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you
that is
ever?
Correct.
I'm going to ask you. I haven't prepared you at all. Did you ever see anything down there that was odd?
Not necessarily. Not to the point where I would consider it like an abnormal sighting. I mean, I've kind of explained it a little bit before, but really, its sonar has two functions. There's passive sonar and there's active sonar. When you're using passive sonar, well, I'll start with active sonar. When you're using active sonar, that's what you see in the movies. That's where it's like the bing, bing, and there's little dots on the screen, and you're kind of looking it over. It's similar to that. You can actually determine kind of how large something is depending on how the sound is reverberating off of it. You get a really good idea. You get good at identifying and knowing, oh, this is like an undersea mountain. This is a pod of dolphins. You could see shrimp. When plankton comes together in a really dense cloud of plankton, you can identify it. It's very fuzzy. And then you have passive sonar, which is really just it's a bunch of sound, and it's really strange. You wouldn't, unless you're trained to identify certain frequencies, it's gonna look like nonsense to most people. So that being said, there were times, of course, where you see things that could be considered, I don't know, maybe anomalous. There is such a thing as artifacts as well. Artifacts are things in the software that maybe aren't going correctly. Maybe you have a sensor that didn't pick up off the last ping as well as it should, so you'd classify that as an artifact. So is it possible that we had some type of a USO on the screen, something really bizarre? It's possible, but we never raised an alarm about it or identified it or had an instance where we're like, save that piece of data right there because something more is going on with it. No, most of the time you're on a mission and you're doing something and you're looking very specifically for what you're looking for, and that's submarines, people. Yeah. That's what sonar is mainly used for on at least surface ships, which I was on a surface ship. When you're in a submarine and you're using sonar, that's actually how you navigate. There's no windows on a submarine. You can't look around and say, where are we at? No, you got to have really good sonar operators on a submarine. Otherwise, you're crashing into a ditch under the water, and that's never a good day for anybody.
Oh, man.
I did want to bring this up. It's great that it's funny. I just glanced at the chat, and Marie says, bioluminescent creatures. That's right. I wanted to bring up bioluminescence because I have seen that firsthand in the middle of the night on a ship, and that bioluminescence is it could be a lot of different things, but like for example, a firefly is a form of bioluminescence. It's a little being that's creating light. Well, also those plankton, they can provide bioluminescence, and I have seen going topside on board a ship at night and looking out at the water, and it is seriously, it's like you're in a fairy tale. It's like it's crazy. It's like clouds of light like fluffing around the ship, and you look out and there's patches of it here and there, and what they were describing is this Ferris wheel of light. It wouldn't surprise me if there was some particular species of maybe a plankton or something giving off bioluminescence, and I think they said it was in the same location. Water currents could be swirling those beings, those little tiny organisms around, and they're kind of creating this shape that's similar, so you're seeing it over and over. But I'm telling you firsthand from a guy who's been out in the middle of the ocean, when you see certain things, it is crazy. It really does feel like you're not on planet Earth anymore. I've seen a volcano erupting in the Ring of Fire out in the middle of the night, and it was just...
In the water?
It was in the water, yeah. One of the Ring of Fire, one of the volcanoes out there going off, and you could see it plain as day. It's wild. You're just, wow, that's an active volcano right there erupting right on the horizon. I've been up after a storm, and it was like the ocean was glass. I mean, not even a single wave. All you see is the wake of the ship, and it's dead water. And seriously feels like after that storm, did we get teleported to another dimension? You're feeling that way. And this is me in the modern age. So these guys back in the day, in the age of sail, I can only imagine, really, some of them must have felt like, did we sail off the edge of the earth? Because this is weird. This doesn't feel like I'm on Earth anymore. So it's very it's cool. Just to throw that out there. A lot of the stuff with the ocean could just be really kind of weird.
It is. Yes. To answer your question, Andrew.
Alert.
He says, does your light work, Brad? Yes, it does. Whenever a super chat comes in, light goes off. It is still slow. It's only pings every minute. So I'm working on that. Right now, I don't have enough credits with Google to ping their servers every second to get an active, real live thing. I'm working on that. I have a support ticket in for that. But and thank you for your super chat, Andrew. Appreciate it. We are going to get that going so it's active, like within 3 seconds. It'll come on. But not yet. So, anyway, I promised that we talk about that one clip that they said that this was the most important and that was one of the most interesting parts of this whole thing was the USOs, and I'm going to play that clip now. It's rather fascinating. Here we go.
USOs is something that I was, from the highest ranking military individuals that I've ever spoken with in private over a decade ago, I was urged to know and understand and look at that UFOs are one thing, unidentified flying object, but USOs are the core of what's going on. That's what was conveyed to me. Now, why that's important? Why did we change it to UAP instead of UFO? Unidentified flying object, now unidentified anomalous phenomena? Okay, here's why. Because they are what's called all domain. We track UFOs with satellites pointed outward in space. We track UFOs in air, and we track UFOs under the water. All domain, space, air, and sea. Unidentified anomalous phenomena covers all domain. So that's why they did that. Once something breaches those different, areas, they call it transmedium when there's no inertial effect, or they call it transmedium if it can do that, go between all three. So you see no inertial effect, which is no slowdown from space to air to sea. And a good example of that would be the Tic Tac UFO event with Commander David Fravor, my good old friend and buddy, and the guy that filmed it, Commander Chad Underwood. It's the most famous UFO case ever now. What people forget is the Tic Tac UFO wasn't one object. It was a series of weeks of tracking things dropping from outer space down to sea level in less than a second without a sonic boom. Transmedium, no inertial effect, no sonic boom. So that was happening during that whole thing of the Tic Tac UFO event series. But remember this, people might not have caught my first report. George and I broke that story before the New York Times. There was something under the water.
For sure.
It was docking. They were docking was the word told me. It was something, a USO under the water.
Have they tracked them moving at high speed underwater?
Yes, 100%.
So the resistance of the water isn't an issue.
Correct.
All right, let's pause it there. Interesting. And the reason why we bring that up is not necessarily just to say, hey, look at the latest info on this, but this is what the government is having this guy talk to them about this stuff. He's on the news telling people what he believes about this stuff. So we're keeping up, just like that quote at the very beginning, we're keeping up with this nonsense to understand it, where it's coming from, so we can understand it and talk about it. And we're displaying that to you guys too. And so that was one thing that I learned that I had not heard before, was that these things are a bigger deal than I thought originally. If you have nothing to say about that, I have another clip, but I'm going to pass it to you, Matthew, in case you do.
I want to just point out again that he's bringing up the Tic Tac UFO. I have said it, but that's like the flagship video, really. I mean, I think if we're really looking at anything, if you want to look at something kind of weird that is actually unexplained and no real trickery, at least as far as I believe, that the Nimitz UFO that was captured that Corbel's describing there, I think that's the real deal. I think that was the fallen angels for sure showing themselves to our military.
Yeah.
Purposefully. And getting some really good footage too.
Yeah.
To share with the world.
And one thing I think that that Jeremy is going to say here is, and this really blew my mind, is that he said that if they do actually talk to us, and he's seeding this now. This is the next step. We all know that once we contact these things, and this will happen. When that does happen, he says, trust is earned. Trust is earned. Listen to what he says in this next clip. Watch this craziness.
What do you think is maybe some speculation on why, whatever these things that are driving the crafts, why do they want to be so secretive? Like, why are they hiding themselves from us?
Yeah, speculation mode, right? Because I don't have direct communication with the aliens. I don't know who's operating them. But here's what I notice. What I notice is that the pattern that we have seen through human history has been one of observation and not direct intervention. Typically, there are cases of intervention. You go all the way back in history to like Alexander the Great and like basically like shields of fire, like beaming down wall to break it through so he can invade. I don't know. I wasn't there. That's history, right? But in modern history, you have these UFOs landing and communicating with like children. You have the aerial school event, which is powerful. I know the two girls that were standing right there by these beings.
That was in Africa?
Yeah, I keep messing this up. The exact country that it was, Zimbabwe. I think Zimbabwe. It was Rua. I don't know. I've been to Africa a bunch, man, and I got confused because I was just running
think it's
around.
Zimbabwe. I watched a documentary.
Yeah, it was Zimbabwe. So basically, these children at the time, Liesel and Salma, they're incredible human beings. They were like within a meter, like 3+ feet of these beings. But my point is this: is that there seems to be an observational program. That is the primary thing. Now, some people say that's prep in the battlefield. Some people say they're studying us. Look, we're the greatest show in the solar system, planet Earth. I mean, come on, man. We got it all. War, fighting the Kardashians. We got everything, right? So why wouldn't you watch us? Now, do you go up to an ant hill and do you like talk with the ants? No, you study them. What do you do to cattle? You feed them, you water them, you give them antibiotics, and then you fucking eat them. So I don't know what is going on, but I do know that there is direct contact with a lot of people, and what's said to them has kind of been ubiquitous. They kind of repeat the same kind of stuff, whoever these people are that are flying these things. Now, can we trust what they tell us? Oh, fuck no, man. Trust is earned. And if you're not revealing yourselves, you're not revealing yourselves. The true architects of the secrecy would be the visitors themselves. You should read a book called Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. You know who Arthur C. Clarke was a guy, like a futurist. He like predicted the internet. It's got some great books. One's called Childhood's End. And in that book, he's got these craft. And what they do is they post up in the sky, and for generations, they just sit there, acclimate humanity to their presence, because they got a little dirty secret that they know it's going to be hard to breach the second they meet humans. I don't want to ruin the book, but they look like demons.
Wow.
So I don't know why.
The message that the aliens that visited that school in Africa gave to the children was, you're trashing the planet.
Yeah.
You have to change this. And that was so much before that was a thing in humanity, right?
I asked Liesel, one of the two girls, like, why do you think you were showing them? By the way, it was like a projection in their minds, and it was like mesmerizing. Like the second they turned to their friends, it disappeared. So if you believe them or not, it did happen. But if you believe them or not, like I asked her, why do you think they said that to you? You know, it'd be weird. Like, I don't know what, and if I was an alien, I don't know what I would say to somebody. I'd probably give them a t-shirt or something. Why did you say that? What are you supposed to do with that? And then you made a good point. It was so long ago.
What year was it? 80s, early 80s?
Dude, I'm sorry. My
Something
facts
like that.
are scram. I'm
And
tired.
wasn't there like 30 school children?
There's a bunch.
Yeah, full school. Yeah.
But, so she said to me, I think I'm doing it now. I go, what do you mean? She goes, just talking about it.
Yeah.
I think that was the point.
Spreading the word.
Spread the word.
The other thing it makes me think of is that old Twilight Zone from the 60s where they find the book that the aliens had. To Serve Man was the name of the book. They translated it. And then they were working on translating what was inside of it. And they're like, oh, they're here to help us. And at the end, the famous line is, it's a cookbook!
No.
To Serve Man.
Dude, will you text me that episode?
Just
what the title of it?
It's
like
called To Serve Man.
Oh my God. I really.
All right. Enough. They just start laughing about that. But the funny thing is, not the funny thing, the serious thing is that this is what he said. He said, number one, trust is earned. And at first when I heard that, I was like, yeah, I believe that. Come on. Yeah, Jeremy, finally you said something serious. Except not. Because what he's essentially saying is that I don't trust them until they start talking to me. And I don't want them talking to me. Because just because they're talking to me and they do something good doesn't mean I get any trust from these things. They could be liars, and I believe they will be. And so I think that's a seed of what he's saying there is, yeah, you trust them after they've appeared, and when they start appearing, then when they've done some good stuff, then we can trade technologies and we can be friends, and we will do what they say, no problem. But he's also saying that this is that book, Childhood's End. He's like, yeah, you got to be careful because these things, at the end of it, they were demons. That blew my mind too. I haven't heard this book's Childhood's End, and we talked also about the African children in a previous episode. That was a ubiquitous, like he said, a very ubiquitous message that says you're hurting your planet. We've covered that over and over again on this channel. Same message that Bledsoe had, same message that they all heard. And the children believed that their duty was to introduce them to the world, introduce and talk about the aliens, which is exactly what Bledsoe said too. It's interesting, huh? All these coincidences I don't think are coincidences. I think something's going on here that's much, much bigger.
Yeah, I agree. There is something much bigger going on, and we're tapped into it. I'm looking for a little bit of scripture here.
Oh, you got some on your head.
I was thinking specifically of, and this is what eventually it's going to be, because what they're describing when they say we got to get the message out, they're talking about evangelism. It's the same thing that we're called to do. As Christians, it's the same thing that the very early church was called to do. It started out with just the apostles, and they were terrified, and they had to be bolstered and given reassurance and sent out on a mission, and they did. They multiplied the church, each in their own way. But in 2 Corinthians 11:13, this is talking about some of the bad evangelists. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. So, keeping that in mind, that they're going to come bearing this message, this light message, and eventually claiming the role of Christ. That is the eventuality here, that these people are just the early the early announcers. They're rolling out a carpet here, and the goal is just to get as many people to be fully invested in it and evangelize to their friends, evangelize to their families, get in touch with the people in the government and really shake it up, because they want to have humanity prepared, just like he said, because if they appear to look like demons, like he's saying, they look like demons, and that's enough to turn most people off. Well, there's a level of conditioning that has to take place, because naturally, I think where you would want to reject them, suddenly the false logic takes over, and you're going to, like you said, oh, they're doing such great things, they have these great comforting words, they can't be bad.
And they don't look like the red ponytailed devil either, that I've always thought demons look like.
Some of them are going to look like humans too, which is going to be not cool. There's a lot of ways they could spin that, but yeah.
So what do they look like? And that's what they actually go over next. And I think it was really fascinating that Jeremy Corbel actually covered that they do have a disguise. Watch this. This is fascinating.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
when we talk about the encounters, beings, and the physical appearance seems to be pretty consistent.
You're hearing something that you see in kind of the popular culture. I am being reported to on a daily basis for over a decade, a much wider variety of species of visitor. I am an untrusting person until you've earned my trust, though. I think people can make you see shit. If I put on some kind of weird mask and roll up on you, you're going to think I'm someone else, right? So I think there might be an element of that. And Jacques Vallée, a real deep thinker on this subject, he wrote a book, and on the cover is like this masked alien that has these different, like the jester face and all this. We might be encountering what they want us to see them as.
That makes sense to me.
And it could be weirder than that. Yeah. Do you know how to feed a baby panda?
Bamboo?
I can teach you, man. You get in a panda suit and you go feed it.
Oh, I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, man. So I don't trust for 1 second, the look of what
the true form is being hidden.
Come on, man. I could put a mask on you that you can't even see close up isn't you. So I just the thing is with the whole UFO thing is, I don't know, man. I don't know what's true from them, whoever they are. I try to get things that I can sink my teeth into that we can then have a discussion about. So video evidence is great, but the big questions, we can't even start on that until our government comes clean. Today.
All right, let's pause it there. So that's interesting that he's actually saying this now, just as we've said all along this channel. They appear as anything they want. They can appear your dead grandmother. They could appear as I mean, that's how they deceive people. They'll tell people that they want them to do something atrocious that's anti-biblical, and that Jesus isn't God. And by the way, we're here to help you, and you're destroying your planet. And all you have to do is just accept our terrible thing that we're gonna do to you. And sometimes it's very sexual. And somehow your deceased ex-wife is there. Deceased wife, or deceased. This is legitimate. I'm not just pulling this out of the hat. This is some things that have been explained to me, where they have actually appeared to people as a control to make people do things because their deceased spouse says, "No, that's okay. You can do that." But it wasn't their deceased spouse. That was demonic, and no, they would have never asked them to do that. This is the. I'm gonna throw it to you, Matthew, in just a second. But this is the book that they were talking about. It's called Passport to Magonia by Jacques Vallée, and he has on the cover of it a picture of an alien with several different faces on it, because this is a common thing. This is a common thing that they talk about, that they are seeing, that when people have these experiences, these things are deceivers. They pretend to be different things, and they can wear different masks. They can pretend to be, like I said, dead people. They can pretend to be tall Nordic people. They can pretend to be these little gray alien people. And none of it's true. They're beautiful beings. They're angelic. They're angels. But they have this amazing power to change, and I don't understand that yet. What do you think, Matt?
Jeremy Corbel's analogies really drew my attention, because he says, okay, what does he compare it to? He says the pandas, right? He talked about if you're ants in an ant farm. He talks about how cows and how it's treated. Here's the difference. When God created man, he gave us dominion over the earth and the animals that were in the earth. So by a decree of God, we are placed above the animals. Never, at least in the Bible, from what I've read, were angels given domain over mankind, which is what's happening here. There is an unnatural action being taken on the human race. And some of the stuff that he's hinting towards, I think we're going to see. They're going to make it a divided up factions, so to speak, different races of alien beings, because we've seen the scare tactic of they're harvesting human beings, whether that be through spiritual energy, they're like spiritual vampires, or they're literally abducting people to eat them like human meat is what they want, or we're just a science experiment and they're looking down, and they want to love us, they want to be nourishing. There's all these different angles, and I think there's just so much for people to get invested in, that when this finally breaks out, it's got to be like, oh, the good guys have made contact with us. The good guys have finally broken through because they're here to save us, and then they get to warn us about all the bad, evil beings that are out there.
You know, yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but it just dawned on me. Go ahead, continue.
No, I just said it's being set up. It's being set up so well, and it's going to really capture the imaginations of everyone on Earth.
It is, and what I've seen is this is interesting, because what you said, what is about to break on people, is the exact same quote that I just quoted at the very beginning. Christians should be preparing for what is about to break. Oh, excuse me. Let me make sure I quote it correctly. Christians should be preparing for what is soon to break upon the world as an overwhelming surprise, and this preparation they should make by diligently studying the Word of God. That's how we prepare for this chaos. And we've heard it said over and over again that how does this whole thing start? Well, how does judgment begin? The Bible says that judgment begins with the house of the Lord. So it wouldn't be a big surprise that the seemingly nominal Christians that seem to be following the Word of God from the outside, that's what I mean by nominal, by name only, Christians that have an appearance and exude, this righteousness, but then inwardly they haven't converted. They are not following God. Judgment begins with the house of the Lord, and those are the Christians that are going to be attacked first. That's what the Bible says. Judgment. Let me see if I can find that exact verse, so I'm not just saying things out of my head here, but if we see that, my point is, if we see that begin to happen, well, naturally, people are going to think, oh, well, it's that church, or it's those people. They're the problem. I mean, look, that the attack happened on them, so it must be, and it's not going to be a far stretch of the mind to assume that, if that starts to happen. This is all speculative. What I was quoting there was 1 Peter 4:17. Judgment begins with the house of the Lord. Let me see if I can get the exact verse. So I make sure I'm not quoting this, because this just came to my head. I unfortunately didn't have that prepared. But 1 Peter 4:17. Ads are coming up on my screen. I can't get rid of them. Anyway,
okay, the time has come that judgment must begin at the house of God, and if it is first begin at us, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of God? And to add to that, who did Jesus take the most issue with when
Pharisees.
He was going around with his? Yeah, it was the Pharisees. It was the people who supposedly held a spiritual authority and were learned. They studied it. That's their whole job.
Yeah.
Average guy who's out working the field doesn't have time to consult all of the scrolls and the books and all of that. But these Pharisees, that's their whole job, is to know it inside and out. And Jesus came against them with the heaviest accusation, saying, you're making the law of God of none effect.
Yeah.
You are leading people astray. You are hypocrites. You're whitewashed tombs, is what he described them as. Right. He said, on the outward, you make yourselves seem so appealing, but inward, there is nothing but death. And he gave these rebukes not to be a mean guy and bully the Pharisees. He did it out of love, because he wanted to shake them up and let them know, this is your condition. This is where you're at, and you're not in line with God's will at all. And I think that's why it does come to those who are, like you're saying, nominal people who are going to go out and proclaim, yes, I'm for Jesus. Well, you're going to be tested. The question's going to come up. Okay, are you really for Jesus? What do you stick with? And are you going to, and what kind of soil as well has this seed of the seed been scattered into? Because I fear that a lot of it's described that Jesus said one of those soils that it's under the sun, and that once the sun comes out and it starts to scorch, then it withers and dies. And that's unfortunately, I think there's a lot of that who just haven't let it take root and really let it be their source of just spiritual knowledge, and not go I guess after the itching ears of our times, and to say, well, this message of Jesus is pretty good, but I want an and then some, and an and then some, and I also want to get along with the world, when you should know that to have fellowship with Christ is to also receive the enmity of the world.
Yeah, 100%. Wow. So it's interesting where all this is going, because we definitely have a wild ride ahead of us, and I think we don't need to fear it, because God is going to seal us. There's going to be the mark that everyone talks about, the mark of the beast, but there's also the mark of God, the seal of God, and He's going to seal every single one that is righteous, and not is righteous in and of themselves, but has number one, had that relationship with God and is sealed for the time of the end, because that's what it's all about. It's about having that relationship. So, long story short, these guys end up asking if these aliens are our God. And that's where this whole thing is going, right? That's what we've discovered on this channel. Watch this, Matthew. This is crazy.
Okay.
They could be our creators. They could be essentially our God. And we're their little experiment, or they're just like a kid, and this is their little like guinea pig cage.
Okay, let me ask you this. The speculation that it was aliens who built the pyramids, who built Stonehenge,
we talked about that on the last episode. I remember I'm kind of like not as knowledgeable in that, or don't feel like, I speak from personal opinion, but I will say this: even without the ancient history, modern day history, George Knapp and I did an episode on weaponized. He got this guy who wrote The Day After Roswell, and it was an old timer who checked out, and he did have the roles he did, and he said he seeded our industry with technology from the UFOs.
I really believe that.
Yeah, that was his claim.
What's seeded?
Seeded means like you propagate it to,
come on,
private industry.
150 years ago we didn't have anything, and now look at us. That's such a short amount of time for how much technology we've just suddenly and then there'd be like one guy like Tesla invents all this stuff, or I think they just implant it into these people, and they're like, oh, just give that person and he'll spread the word to the rest of humanity, and they'll have some more technology.
I don't know, but I think it's a really cool idea. And here's the deal though, like, even without ancient stuff, even without pyramids and all that, and although it is pretty suspect, the idea that
there's pyramids in Africa and in South America.
Don't get me started, because this is not my thing. But yeah, it's a subject to
there's
talk
something
about.
going on there.
All right, I'm gonna pause it right there just for a second. What they're talking about is Stonehenge, and they're talking about pyramids. We've talked about the technology idea and the reverse engineering on this channel before. We're not going to jump into that real quick, because we've demolished that, and not demolished it as in it's not real. I truly believe like Tesla and stuff were acting with the occult. And we're going to do a whole separate show on that. We're digging into that in the Discord. But they as in demonic entities are definitely implanting things inside of our head, not as an alien would. Then again, similar, as in you have these visions, you have these dreams, and then all of a sudden now you're having this great idea. Remember the guy of Back to the Future, Emmett Brown? I was on my toilet, and then I hit my head, and I saw it, the flux capacitor. Remember this? And so, I mean, so many inventors have had these epiphanies, these dreams, these visions, and you wonder where this comes from. We know where it comes from. And these things have been forwarded for military reasons, for pressing communication between everybody. Okay. I'm completely off. What I want to talk about is Stonehenge. So I'm gonna table that discussion just for a second. But we found something actually in the Discord. Connie, I'm gonna call her name real quick, because she found something and I forgot about it in Roger Morneau's writings in his actual book, A Trip into the Supernatural, not the 3.5-hour video. But he actually talks about Stonehenge. This was interesting. Look at this. I'm going to bring up the thing here. Unfortunately, that's the best I got. If you're on a computer, you can read it. I'm going to bring it up in my in my pictures here so I can read it. That middle paragraph says this: the master's altar. This is talking about the Luciferians that were actually doing the worship service. They had a large altar they wanted to bring in, but it was very heavy. They said the master's altar, talking about Satan, was brought to its present location in the same manner and by the same power that Druid priests employed to erect the Stonehenge structures. Spirit power, or in other words, the process of levitation. The spirits have revealed to me that the great accomplishments of Druid priests among the ancient Celts in France, England, and Ireland more than 28 centuries ago. I was shown that at the hour of noon and midnight, during the full moon, the Druid levitated blocks of gray sandstone weighed as much as 28 tons into precise positions to erect their place of worship. Then he took a couple of puffs off his Churchill cigar, sat back, and continued, aware of their accomplishments. I felt that the same privilege was mine. This is the satanic priest, to exercise and enjoy. Therefore, I notified my people of my intent to give the master a token of our affections in a beautiful altar. They felt as if I had the faith to believe that these spirits would set the altar in its designated place, and they would take care of the cost of transporting to the rear entrance of our place of worship. Without hesitation, I told them to place an order for an altar made of white marble, whatever that type of marble is. Nothing is too good for the master. Now, you can read this whole book. It's all fascinating. It's A Trip into the Supernatural by Roger Morneau, a Canadian. Oh, man, did I do that without even showing the actual thing?
Yeah, no, it was just you reading. It's okay, though.
But anyway, I was reading it on my screen. I thought I had it on the thing. But anyway, it's A Trip into the Supernatural. Roger Morneau. That exact page, if you wanted to know what that was, I'll cut that over so you can see what I was reading. But that exact page was, I'm going to bring it up here, unknown. I don't have it here. It just says 31% complete. So it's around 31% of the book, whatever that is. But it's an interesting book for sure, because we can tell that these things are able to move things around the room. Not just any picture or a lamp, but also huge, heavy blocks. And that's apparently how these things were put in place. And Matthew, I wouldn't be so surprised if that's how the pyramids were built too. Just a thought. Who knows?
Right. Well, it could be. It could be some weird occult magic, some demonic levitation. Could be. I think that ancient people were better engineers than they're given credit for. I think that it's possible, because I've said it before. I think that humanity is degenerating,
but we don't even have to look.
It's okay. Very nice clip. Yes, go.
We ain't as smart as we used to be, is what I think, and I think that probably a lot of the technology, or at least the methods that they employed to do certain things, are just lost to us, and we're so fixated on modern technology that it's like nothing could ever get done unless you did it the way we do it. So, but that, I think, I mean, the ability to levitate stones, why not? They got a lot of different tricks.
Wow. It's
Coral
all...
Castle. It's funny. I'm sorry, that just came out of nowhere. I was actually thinking of this, and I only heard this story once before. David in the chat, thank you very much. Coral Castle is just like a guy who apparently, I don't know if this is like an urban legend or whatever. It's been a while since I've heard it, but he like figured out how to levitate things with like frequency, with his voice or something like. And what? If that's true, and they were like chanting, I don't know. It's weird, but it did come to mind when you were reading. Coral Castle. It's in Florida, right?
I have a hard time believing.
I'll find more. I know it's out there. Maybe I'll talk about that next time. I'll do a little more research.
Okay,
we can talk about that. Thanks, David. Though.
So this is the clip. I have two clips that are just fascinating put together. So I'm gonna play them both back to back. Watch this. This is the right clip. Just a second. Let me make sure. Yeah, this is the right clip. Here we go.
But we don't even have to look back to ancient times, right? If we understand with Colonel Corso and what he reported to us when he was running these programs, was that they seeded or put this technology into industry. Now, the thing is, we can look at modern day. We know our United States government, with a joint allied group of foreign materials program called the Five Eyes Foreign Materials Program, are reverse engineering UFO technology. We know they are doing that. So now there's a supportive document, and I mean, look into that foreign materials program from the Five Eyes, right? So if we are reverse engineering, and the DIA is reverse engineering this, and other corporations like Lockheed Martin are, and BAE, and all these companies, if they're doing it, then they are definitely getting derivative technologies to bring even into the skins of our stealth craft or whatever. So they're doing it now. We can look to the pyramids. It's being done now.
Okay, watch this too. It just came out recently as a clip from Joe Rogan. I don't think it was originally in the original podcast. This is what Grusch released to the public. Watch.
So Lockheed Martin wanted to divest itself from this material at a specific facility that's known to me, that I provided to the Inspector General, like street address, all that, right? And the idea was, if they made a catcher's mitt, a security catcher's mitt for this, most serious sap possible, the contractor and the other government customer, which was the Central Intelligence Agency, for that specific Lockheed material, and it was shit that they recovered from like the 50s and stuff, and it was like bits and pieces of like hull structures like that.
Okay,
man,
so
you can't stop that guy. He's got such a foul mouth. Like David Grusch has one of the worst. Because I've gone through and I've had to edit out his cursing too, but he really is. He's a military guy through and through. Because he, like, every other word out of his mouth, when he gets comfortable, he just lets it roll. Like, he can't say stuff. Like, he has to say the expletive. He can't just say normal words.
I edited. I mean, I missed one tonight, and I thought that was pretty good because man, there was so much to cut out of that and try to get.
Man, yeah.
But
I've been there too. It's difficult. It's difficult.
The interesting part, which I'm going to get to in just a second, I want to just thank the super chat real quick. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marion. She says, prayers. Thank you, Marine. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm terrible with names. Thank you for the super chat. We all need your prayers. I want to solicit everyone to pray for us because as we go over this stuff, it's pretty heavy stuff, and we want to make sure we do it in the best possible way. But the interesting parts about this is, we've gone over this over and over again. This is a heavy topic because I think this is going to be the clincher for everyone at the end. Not only these things appearing, but initially that we have some kind of foreign material. And just as Matthew pointed out, and originally when we first started going over this, the satanic occultists in Egypt were able to reproduce some plagues. Physical stuff they were able to reproduce. And so if we can't expect any further than that. I mean, we're gonna see physical manifestations of stuff. Not only physical manifestations of stuff, but things that have been here for a long period of time that the government has nabbed and tried to take apart. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's where a lot of this technology came from. After all, the Bible says at the end of time, knowledge will increase. Knowledge will increase, and I think perhaps maybe that's a part of this. A lot of people say, well, no, that's just knowledge about the scriptures. Perhaps. I think it probably has a dual application. We're probably seeing a lot of stuff happen right now to allow that to happen. And so what I wouldn't be surprised at is what we're seeing right now is that all that lore that originally happened, all that strangeness that people wouldn't want to talk about, and that we're saying, oh, come on, UFOs have been here and we're reverse engineering, that's a bunch of baloney. Everyone's going to have to take two steps back now and say, what is it that I didn't believe a long time ago that was actually true. Maybe these guys have the truth. That's what's going to happen because of all this stuff. And people are going to have to I've seen it happen, not just about UFO stuff, but I've seen it happen in religions. When they convert from a religion that is very, very different from one to another, they now have to take everything. They're trying to establish whether or not their whole worldview has changed. Not just religion, but everything they understand has to be recalculated and understood and investigated. And so I think we're going to see the entire world do that at this point, and every wind of doctrine will blow, as the Bible says. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, we're given an advanced warning that what follows the false prophets, the false Christs, is signs and wonders. It happens. It says it comes up again and again. It comes up in Matthew 24. Jesus warns about the false wonders. And 2 Thessalonians, there's a warning about the false wonders. That's what it is. Something that's a wonder. It's going to capture your like I was talking about before, it's your mindset. You're going to be fixated on it. It's going to be something that defies explanation. And as you said, it's going to make you reevaluate, what do I believe in? And the physical aspect of this phenomenon, I think, is just getting ramped up. But eventually, there is going to be some really incredible things taking place in front of people. It's going to be more than just, I need to see it to believe it. It's the people who are like Thomas. It's like, oh no, until I put my hand in the wounds, if I can't put my hand in the holes, I'm not going to believe it. There's going to be the same type of people, but for Satan and his crew. They're going to say, oh, I don't believe you guys until I get to lay hands on some physical proof. And they're going to say, well, here you go, from Zeta Reticuli, your own antimatter gun. Go point it at that rock. It's going to disintegrate. And then they're going to go, whoa. My God. They're going to say the same thing, my Lord and my God, but just totally misattributing it to Satan.
Yeah, all the knees bow and everything. That's what's going to happen. Yeah, I truly believe it. That's it. We're in for quite a show, and it's going to ramp up here, I believe, in this decade. So we'll see what happens as this thing progresses. We're going to see, I think, something big happen this year, but even bigger happen next year, and possibly in the next few years after that, something even just stupendous. As some authors say, wonderful, but not wonderful as in a good thing. Wonderful as in awe-inspiring, awful, I guess you could say. And that's really what I'm driving at. Actually, I have a few more clips, Matthew, but they don't really match what we're talking about right now. It just so happens that that Jeopardy picked up UFOs. And they have a whole section devoted to UFOs. That's where we are in propaganda now, folks. Jeopardy is picking up, and they presented all this new Corbel and Blink-182 to people. I'm going to leave that for the Discord, and we're going to do an after show right after this and talk about that, because I think that's interesting, but it really doesn't flow into this program. So if you want to watch that, join the Patreon, patreon.com/strangenormal. Do you have anything to say about that before we go?
They got Disney for the kids and Jeopardy for the old folks. It's it's a whole spread of propaganda. No matter where you go, it's just going to get more intense.
That's right. And thank you, Natural Healer Mom, for the super chat. This is your first super chat. I want to say very much appreciate that. I know it's kind of hard to get that whole thing started. I think my first super chat, I sent someone. It didn't send because I didn't do it right, and I was like, why didn't they say anything about it? I don't understand. But thank you so much for being able to figure that out and send us a super chat. That's how we continue this show. So again, unless you have something else to say, Matt, you want to pray us out?
Yeah, I can pray us out.
Okay.
Father in heaven, we appreciate this time coming together to look over this material, to analyze just this aspect of the deception. We pray that you sharpen our minds so that we can be just articulate, we can be steadfast whenever we're confronted and people want answers. Lord, I pray that you put the words in our mouth and really let us be your messengers. Let us do your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Matthew. Stick around for our little after show afterwards. We'll upload. We're not going to stream it, but we're going to upload that to Patreon right after this, and we will catch you in a second. Folks, I hit the wrong button. So I'm going to say, my name is Brad, and this has been pure strangeness, absolute normalcy. Strange normal. See you later.
You're watching Strange Normal, where the truth is the truth.